everybody. This is Jack Easum with TrumpRepublican.News. That's TrumpRepublican.News. Go to the website, TrumpRepublican.News, TrumpRepublican.News. We've got all kinds of information for you there, all kinds of stories developing around Trump, the world of politics, and the world as we know it. Today I want to do a show inspired by Dr. Michael Savage. Dr. Michael Savage, you may know who he is. He's pretty well known for his books and his radio show, which is, in his book, Trump's War, is the #1 New York Times best-selling. So I want to talk a little bit today on page 91 of his book. It just kind of grabbed me. And his title on it is, What is Culture? Well, for more than 25 years, that's been the theme of Michael Savage's show. The Savage Nation has been borders, language, culture. You've probably heard that if you've ever listened to him. Borders, language, culture. That's because everything that makes America what it is can be reduced to those three words, pretty much. A lot of pundits and think tankers, they'll tell you the U.S. Constitution or the Bill of Rights, that's what makes America what it is. Well, they're not completely wrong, and they're partially right. Those documents and the ideas they contain are monumentally important, but they aren't fundamentally defining our culture. As he wrote in his last book, Scorched Earth, the Constitution is the result of our borders, language, and culture, not the other way around. Interesting. The Constitution is the result of our borders, language, and culture, not the other way around. Well, sometimes it sounds like sacrilege, but it's true. This is one of those subjects upon which conservatives can become, well, as utopian as liberals. And remember, liberalism is a mental disorder. Shh, don't let anybody know. Well, they believe the Constitution was inspired by God, and everything in it is sacred scripture. Well, some of it may have been, but I'm not so sure we would call it sacred scripture. Everyone seems to forget how much compromise was necessary to draft the document, the Constitution. Once it was drafted, a large part of the country wanted nothing to do with it, calling themselves anti-federalists. Rhode Island didn't even ratify the document until 1790. It was one of the many states that wouldn't agree to it at all without assurances it would be amended immediately. Well, the founders, they disagreed on how the federal government should be organized. But culture, because it's an important concept, people define it as a lot of different ways. For some cultures limited to the arts, music, literature, painting, sculpture, and dance. Others define it more widely to include constitutional and legal institutions. Everybody likes to have their own definition of what culture is. But, it's kind of all of the above. Our Constitution was instrumental in America rising from a poor, farm, agrarian backwater to the mightiest nation in the history of the world in just a few decades. The Constitution limited the power of the government and provided the freedom to innovate and explore that wasn't available in most other countries. Without American culture, the Constitution would have been worthless. What good is freedom if you don't use it productively? Well, culture has been for most of our history. Until the 1960s, America was socially conservative, very conservative nation based on Judeo-Christian morality, the Protestant work ethic, and love of country. Businessmen used to be called captains of industry and were revered for their achievements. Working people found long hours and frugality rewarding, knowing that even if they never became millionaires themselves, they were building a better future for their children. I want to say something here. That is definitely something that's in the culture of the American dream and part of the American culture. To have the hope to move things forward by hard work and living in a clean type of life. Oh, I know, Americans always love a party, but sobriety and licentiousness and excess were frowned upon. The man who allowed drunkenness to impair his ability to provide for his family was called a drunk. The man who wasn't faithful to his wife was called a cad. As late as the 1950s, Americans overwhelmingly loved their country. They revered the Founding Fathers as pioneers of the ideas that had built the bountiful society they enjoyed. They sought to emulate wealthy businessmen rather than, just call them exploiters of victim workers. They dutifully attended religious services and thanked God for the blessings they had received. They worked hard and complained little. Complaining about one's circumstances used to be considered a sign of personal weakness. People used to talk about how they were going to improve their own condition, not what somebody else owed them. Anyone under 40 reading this probably thinks, we're talking about another planet. Certainly nothing written about America today. The wealthy are now vilified, no matter how honestly they earn their money. Licentiousness, drunkenness, and drug use are now revered as hip, while sobriety and self-control are denigrated as square. The Protestant work ethic persists out in flyover country, but in America's urban centers it's extinct. Rather than starting out at the bottom and working for their way up the ladder as they gain skills and experience, America's baristas and burger flippers would rather protest until a politician forces employers to pay them more than they're worth. Well, those are part of the elements of the American culture. And in my opinion, President Trump is reviving that part of American culture to provide hope, to give us energy, and to boost the challenges that we can overcome in order to have better lives across the board. Well, that's it for Michael Savage today. I think it's inspirational what he wrote. And thank you, President Trump, for reviving the American culture and making America great again. And everybody out there, don't forget what President Trump likes to say: keep moving forward. Never, ever give up. God bless everybody. See you tomorrow.